Welcome back, everybody, to another rude awakening episode of Lockdown 23 and 1. That's right, man. This one will wake you up for sure, especially about the people that you might be hanging around. But we got Mr. Hubbard here and Mr. Lanier. They're charged in the fatal shooting of a 2-year-old boy after they targeted the wrong vehicle on I-75. Now, this case is a crazy one, and I'll break down exactly why when we get there, but let's jump into the courtroom. Detroit, here we come. This video is over an hour long. I kind of highlighted pretty much just the sentence. If you want to watch the full clip, I have it pinned in the comment section below. But this is the prosecutor, someone that has been pretty much my worst nightmare for the majority of my life. Not him personally, but prosecutors in general always seems like they want to smoke my boots. Grease me straight to the oil factory. Dunk me in toes first.
Comfortable, Mr. Makepeace, scoring death to a victim for the AWIM convictions since he was separately tried and convicted of that death.
Thank you, Judge.
So, okay, I
Boy,
think
looks like
10
he
is
don't
the right score
care to be here.
for Christian Jr. Now,
Someone messed up on his pocket.
Our allocute here, Eugene Hubbard, was convicted of first-degree murder. It's a mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole. I would ask the court to do that. Thank you.
That's
all right.
the ultimate smoke
Now,
train.
anything you want to say before your client speaks?
Judge, I just want to say we all understand it's a tragic incident. We wish the best for it.
Mr. Hubbard, is there anything you would like to say before I impose sentence?
Yes, sir.
There you go, bruh. Say something.
Pace me.
Sorry, Judge.
Man, I hope it ain't nothing disrespectful.
I'm sorry for what happened to the family. Heart goes out to them, but at the end of the day, if they feel like there's justice, then it's justice served. But at the end of the day, I can sleep well and know that I didn't kill no kids. So my goes out to the family, but things happen. But I know Mr. Eugene Hubbard or anyone in Mr. Eugene Hubbard car did not hurt that family. They know what they saw. They chose to change their statement or do whatever they did. So they must wanted justice. Somebody had to go down for it. So I guess it was me.
Well, okay. All
Well,
right.
okay.
Well,
He didn't like that speech.
for count one, premeditated first-degree murder, of course, your sentence is life without parole, which even that seems like a woefully inadequate sentence under these circumstances, but it's the maximum sentence that the law allows in this case. I just can't imagine a family going through something like this, especially with the child's mother sitting right next to him when he was murdered.
Very tragic.
And not a completely innocent child and a completely innocent family, which is not, the usual fact pattern that we see even in first-degree murder cases, where we sometimes or often see victims who have, in some respects, joined a circle of friends and acquaintances which make fatal killing almost inevitable. But certainly that wasn't the case here. And I'm as undone as the family is about this. This is just awful. But anyway, in count one, you're sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In counts.
But anyway, you can get life without parole, buddy. This judge with that salmon-colored collar popped. He's been born to hand down the life sentence. You could tell he's handed out probably about 50,000 of them. This guy lives off of smoke.
2, 3, 4, and 5, where you are charged with respectively 3 counts, or convicted of 3 counts of assault with intent to murder. And,
Max.
And then a discharge of a firearm from a vehicle causing death. Your guidelines were pegged at 270 to 450 or life. And I am sentencing you to a life term on those 4 counts. And those sentences will be served
acting like
concurrently
that,
with
man.
your first-degree murder sentence. And then addressing the discharge of a firearm in a vehicle causing injury, where we apparently agree that the guidelines were 62 to 114. I'm sentencing you to a concurrent prison term of 9 years to 15 years. And then on the next two counts, discharge of a firearm from a vehicle not causing injury or death. The guidelines are 43 to 76. I'm sentencing you to two concurrent terms of 6 years to 10 years. So just to be clear, counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. The sentences that I just announced will all be served concurrently with each other, subject to 0 credit. You were also convicted of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 counts of felony firearm.
That's that Chattanooga
You're
train
remanded to the
smoke.
custody of the Michigan Department of Corrections for a 2-year prison term on those 8 counts. Those 8 counts will be served concurrently with each other, but consecutive to your sentence on the other counts. And the felony firearm sentences are offset by 685 days jail credit.
Now, like I said, there's a catch in this case, okay? And there's a reason why this guy is probably acting the way that he is. He is technically the accomplice, the driver, and he was sentenced to life without parole. Now, his homeboy, the shooter, the one that pulled the trigger, is about to get sentenced, and believe it or not, he gets less time than the driver. What the heck? What's up with this jail in their pockets, man?
Case.
Is that how they
5838
figure out their level?
State of Michigan versus Darius Lanier. This matter is set for sentencing. Appearances, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. Matthew Makepeace on behalf of the people, P82796.
Good
So
morning,
this
Your
is
Honor.
the
Nick
same
Holton,
day,
on behalf of
okay,
Darius
immediately
Lanier,
after his
number
sentencing.
58969.
Okay, we're here today for Mr. Lanier's sentencing. Ms. James, you've had a chance to go over the pre-sentence report with your client. I know there's a lot of corrections to be made here that I saw, but first of all, in counts 2, 3, and 4, he was not convicted of assault with intent to murder. He was convicted of assault with intent to do great bodily harm. And before we started this morning, I asked Mr. Makepeace to run the guidelines on that because another problem here is that the department did not score any guidelines, at least in the copy I got, for any of the other crimes that Mr. Lanier was convicted of other than second-degree murder.
Agreed, Your Honor.
And then also erroneously, they are recommending jail credit for 685 days on all of the crimes, which of course is not the case. He's got 685 days credit coming against his felony firearm convictions.
So just to break down a little bit of what's going on here, okay, DOC, Department of Corrections, sent over a point sheet that helps the judge determine the sentencing. And it seems like they messed up, okay? They didn't add none of the points of any of his past crimes because that's a major factor in that whole point system. The more crimes you got in the past, the more time you're going to get. Second of all, they gave him almost 700 days time credit for all of the crimes listed. So far, this guy's getting the treatment that the accomplice should have got.
Reached any sort of consensus on what his GBH guidelines are, counts 2, 3, and 4?
Yes, Judge, we have.
Okay.
Oh, they came to
I'm gonna-
agreement.
I'm not going to go through each one. The PRBs are appropriately scored after talking with Ms. James at 65. The OB levels for count 2, assault with intent to commit great bodily harm less than murder, would be scored at 90.
90.
90.
OB level. Or sorry,
Oh.
the actual OB, just so that's on the record.
Oh, right, okay.
Not 100.
The
Looking
guidelines
good.
would be 38 to 76. For counts 3 and 4, they would be scored.
Okay, I can't take it anymore. It's time for the courtroom analysis. Never in my years would I ever imagine I'd see a NASA Apollo 13 generated smoke detector. Unreal. This is the same one they had in the Apollo projects. The one with Tom Hanks, y'all remember? It goes perfectly with the mahogany birch from the melted ice caps of northern Antarctica. The tribes out there whittle these things by hand. They're almost priceless. And beam me up, Scotty. Good gracious. It's been a long time, y'all, since I seen a replica Jean-Luc Picard captain's chair. Not 1, but 5. Is that Magnolia? Not to mention those Ellen DeGeneres glasses, hiding back those Gandalf brows. God, I still can't get past them John Luke Picards.
Were put in the memo. I would amend that to be what we've scored the guidelines at. I did mention those in there. It's 130, 30 points over the maximum. That argument that his guidelines or offense variables of 130 still show that the guidelines don't adequately take into consideration the seriousness of the offense. But we are talking about proportionality, and just from Tempest and Brian Sr.'s statements alone, Judge, I think a upward departure is appropriate in this case, given what they've said. But specifically, the trauma, which is considered an OB5, Judge, the trauma that was caused to the family, the psychological injury, that doesn't adequately take into consideration what was going on inside that car when Darius Lanier fired 10 bullets through the black Dodge Ram that he thought someone else was in.
All right, Mr. Lanier, anything you want to say?
No, I do not.
Okay. Well,
Nothing.
the fundamental problem
Wow.
with sentencing in this case
Wow.
is that,
Nothing.
in addition to the mistakes made in the pre-sentence report, which I think we've corrected, the Lanier jury just got this so wrong.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it did.
By all the evidence in this case, Lanier was the shooter and Hubbard was the driver, or aider and abettor, and the Hubbard jury got it right, and they got it right efficiently and expeditiously. Lanier jury,
Unreal.
for reasons that I can't explain, none of us can explain, cut Lanier a number of breaks, not just in the homicide charge, but in the assault with intent to murder charges. I don't know what to say about that. I hope the Lanier jurors are watching this. I remember when I went back to talk to the Lanier jury after the verdict, it was late. They came in with a verdict very late. We had gone overtime. 2 or 3 of the jurors were crying, and there was really just no opportunity for me to talk to them. If I had had that opportunity or felt like saying anything to them, it probably would have offended them. And they sat here for 3 weeks. I mean, they gave us 3 weeks of their time, and I wasn't in a really.
I'd
really
love
good
to be
position
offended by
argue
you,
with
Your
them,
Honor.
but
I'd take it as a learning experience.
They just got it so wrong, and there's just no explanation for it, other than it was a different jury, a different group of people, listening to the same evidence.
God, this
virtually
guy's
the
getting
same evidence
strong
that the
Jerry
Hubbard jury
Springer
listened to, and
vibes.
they came to the results
That's
they
what
did.
it is, man. Rest in
One of
peace,
the
old Jerry. God, rest in
Concerns
peace,
that I
Jerry.
have about ever with the second-degree murder conviction, the guidelines are scored at the range is 315 to 525 or life. So the guidelines would support my imposition of a life sentence for Mr. Lanier, but I have concerns about that as well because, up until a couple of decades ago, the Michigan Department of Corrections and parole boards interpreted a life sentence to mean that parole eligibility began at 15 to 18 years. And I don't know what the parole board is going to look like 20 or 30 years from now. I have no idea. I would have very grave concerns that a life sentence, in this case, would actually end up being a considerably less serious sentence than one I'm going to impose. So I'm going to sentence Mr. Lanier to a term of years with the expectation that that will be his sentence. So on the first-degree murder conviction, second-degree murder conviction, Mr. Lanier is remanded to the custody of the Michigan Department of Corrections for a prison term of no less than 43 years and 9 months to 70 years. There is no set-off for credit. On count 2, assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder, I'm remanding him to a prison term of 6 years to 10 years. Likewise, in count 2, assault with intent to commit murder, 6 years to 10 years. Likewise, count 3, 6 years to 10 years. On the discharge of a gun from a motor vehicle causing death, 8 years to 20 years. on the discharge of a firearm from a vehicle causing injury,
It better all
8
be
years to
consecutive.
15 years. Then on the next two, discharge of a firearm from a vehicle without injury or death, 6 years to 10 years. All of those sentences, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, those sentences will all be served concurrent with each other and consecutive to the felony firearm sentences. Likewise, there were 8 counts of felony firearm. He gets 2 years on those collectively. They will all be concurrent with each other and consecutive to the other sentences. And the felony firearm sentences are subject to a 685-day set-off.
That's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. You know, it wasn't very fair of a sentencing, but, you know, that's the name of the game sometimes. You know, a lot of it is up to juries and other people that, you know, is not so much in the judge's hands. Not to mention, like I said, the judge, I think, had a little bit different of a game plan, you know, to where he pretty much is being sentenced to life. He ain't gonna be able to appeal and beat all them consecutive charges, if any. Judge did what he felt was best, and I feel like he knows exactly what he was doing. So, at least the judge recognized it, and he fixed it appropriately. But I would love to hear what y'all have to say about the guy that was just driving. Do you think he deserves life? It's going to be split up in the comment section, I know that for sure. But if I were to guess, Homeboy probably spotted the truck or whatever kind of vehicle the family was driving in. Was like, that's it. You know, even the driver, he was probably like, speed up, get close to it. And if Homeboy sped up and got right up next to that car, yeah, he deserves to pay too. Yeah, that's a fact, man. And you know what? I would feel guilty, even if I didn't pull the trigger, because that guy wouldn't have even been there if I didn't drive him close enough for him to start shooting. Or just to look at every side angle, you know, I don't like to put anybody under the bus. Maybe he was just driving, eating a taco, and dude thought it was his enemy, and he started blasting without the driver even knowing. Highly unlikely, but it's a possibility. But hopefully y'all enjoyed. My kids actually just brought some new friends to the cell block. Well, not really the cell block. I need to be careful with them words. To the house, okay? To the house. Brought some new friends to the house. So they're being really loud. I gotta go. Hopefully you enjoyed, though. Like I said, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell if you did. And as always, I salute to every last one who's been supporting me since the beginning. And everybody who's just now joining the lockdown compound. Y'all be safe and stay free.